Welcome to r/Reddit Revenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you friends for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. OP discovers someone cheating and takes action by filling their own department's jar and periodically adding money to the IT jar. The second story. Someone is putting major errors under the OP's name. They discover that their colleague EOD has been manipulating the system. The third story. Woman endures verbal abuse from her uncle at a funeral. She refuses to help with his taxes, which results in him being audited. The first story is cheat at a charity contest, enjoy last place. The company where I work likes to hold regular charity drives throughout the year of all shapes and sizes. The smaller ones they often like to turn into little contests to get people interested and to donate more. One year they introduced a new coin-based contest. The rules were pretty simple. They put in the lobby a number of plastic jars, one for each department. The goal was for members of each department to deposit any and all spare change into their respective jars to give themselves points. A penny was worth 1 point, a nickel was 5 points, etc. As a twist, you could add paper money to the mix to deduct points from a department's total score. If you saw someone's jar getting full and thought they were too far ahead of you in points, then you could drop a $1 bill in to knock off 100 points from that department's score. Whatever department had the most points by the end of the contest period received a small ice cream party reward. The day the contest started, I walked into the lobby to see the jars all set up, with only a few coins in the various jars already. I took some spare change out of my wallet, dropped it into my department's jar, and then decided to go ahead and put $1 in the IT department's jar, since they had the most coins at the time. After that, I went about my day and forgot all about the contest until I passed through the lobby again that afternoon, and decided to see how the contest was going. There were more coins in all the jars, of course, and someone had put $1 in my department's jar. I didn't think much of this at first, until I looked into the IT department's jar and saw that my dollar from that morning was missing. I checked all the jars and there was only a single dollar bill in any of them. You know what this means? Someone took my dollar bill out of the IT jar and placed it in my department's jar. Someone was cheating at this charity contest. I reported this cheating to the people in charge of the contest, but their response consisted of putting lids on the jars and adding a warning to the next contest reminder email, in small font not to cheat. A very lackluster response, so I decided to take action. I had no way of knowing who actually cheated, but it was a safe bet it was someone from IT. I felt a bit sorry for the other IT people who would suffer because of my plan, but I just can't stand cheaters. First, I let everyone in my department know that we had a cheater try to sabotage us. This got them all riled up like I was and more interested in winning the contest. Then I went home and collected all the coins I had available. Had a big jar of pennies that I emptied and collected all the silver coins I could spare. I saw my parents that evening and I told them what had happened and what I was planning, and they joined in on my plan, donating several rolls of quarters, nickels, and dimes to my now very heavy bag of coins. Next morning, I walked into the lobby with my big bag and dumped a good chunk of it into my department's jar, filling it up halfway. The rest I was going to save for the end of the contest for a last-minute sprint to guarantee that we would win. The rest of my department was planning to do that too, so we were all planning a big finish. Before I went up to my desk, I paused to drop into the IT jar a $20 bill. From that day until the end of the contest, I would periodically drop the odd $1 or more into the IT jar for good measure. The day the final score was announced was glorious. They gave the final totals in dollar amounts rather than points. First place, my department with $50 plus worth of points. Second place, $8 worth of points. Can't remember the specific department. Last place, IT department with negative $20 worth of points. That victory ice cream tasted especially sweet. OP's dedication to doing the right thing not only ensured that their department won the contest, but it also served as a reminder to others that cheating is never the answer. It's a shame that someone felt the need to cheat and sabotage the contest, but it's inspiring to see how OP decided to take action. By rallying their department and collecting coins from their family, they were able to secure a well-deserved win. I don't know why the organizers didn't take a stronger stance against cheating, but it's also a reminder that it's up to each individual to uphold their own values and morals. OP's actions may have seemed petty to some, but it's a reflection of their dedication to fairness and their unwillingness to let cheaters get away with their actions. The second story is, try to put your mistakes on my name, take a month to cool down. Some background before we start. So I work in a hospital where we deal with a lot of foot traffic on a daily basis. I work as the main pharmacist and so on an average day dispense drugs to anywhere up to 200 patients. An obvious requirement of the job is not screwing up the patient's drugs, as that can have some insanely bad side effects. So we have a system you have to log into with your own code that will then register all sales under your initials. Problem with this system is that if you have any basic understanding of the system, you can change the initials to anyone else's, as long as they're registered on the system. I'm not exactly God's gift to man when it comes to work. I excel in finding the simplest way to perform a task as simply and efficiently as possible, and so I'm always able to complete my work at 100% quality, with massive amounts of time to spare. I work with another chap who would likely cause himself great injury if he dropped from his ego to his IQ. From this point, I shall refer to him as egotistical, obnoxious dumb A, or EOD to shorten it. EOD has been at the company for around 3 years now, and in that time has managed to get a week-long suspension, something no one has ever managed to do. He managed this by lying to the point where a client took the company to court. In other words, this company is extremely lax on punishments. Over the last 3 years together, EOD and I have had some major run-ins concerning attitude, treatment of others. It got exceptionally bad around 9 months ago when I realized he was manipulating the system so that he never worked his weekends, but was forcing others to take those shifts by some clever shift swapping. Essentially, it meant he was working 16 hours less a month than he should have. I said nothing to management, as frankly I found it slightly amusing that he was managing to dupe management so well, and all the people around him could not figure out why their hours had increased. I pointed out to him that I realized he was being dodgy, and got the response, "Well, no one will catch me." So now to the story. This goes back about 6 months ago. I get called into the practice manager's office over a series of mistakes made over a 5-day period all under my name. Now, normally I don't make mistakes. Think maybe one minor oversight in 5 years. So when I get called in for major errors over 5 days, I'm already wary of something. I get informed that I'll be undergoing a disciplinary hearing at the end of the week. I had 3 days to prepare my defense and remember why I screwed up. Needless to say, I went back to my office and started checking up all my errors. Something jumped out at me. All the days listed I was on leave. As a gift, the company gives us our birthday off. I had taken the other 4 work days off to disappear into the mountains. Immediately, red flags started appearing before me. I asked for a meeting and was told to wait for my hearing. Friday comes and my hearing starts. 3 minutes later, I pointed out that on those days I was 2,000 kilometers away. There was no way I could have given out those drugs. Hearing this, management double-checks this, realizes their error and does what they should have done from the beginning. Check the GD cameras. A quick check confirms that yes, I was on leave, but EOD was the one who had made all the screw-up. Immediately, EOD is called in and suspended for a week for the mistakes and is to come back in 6 days for a secondary hearing concerning his use of my initials to blatantly get in trouble. The rest of the company is told he has taken leave, so no one expects anything except me, the target of said machinations. To keep me in the loop, I'm told that this behavior will be punished, but the company cannot afford to let him go, as he is good with some clients, and finding a replacement and training them is difficult and expensive. I nod in understanding and leave it at that, though under the surface I am seething. Here comes my petty revenge. Instead of coming right out and snitching, I instead draw some roster diagrams with lines showing all the sneaky shift switches EOD had performed with the ladies in the office. Takes a day or so before I hear rumblings from the ladies as they begin to put the pieces together. A few reports later, and a full-scale investigation of his actions reveals a few more little sneaky maneuvers pulled by EOD. Come D-Day, in comes EOD with a smug smile on his face. That smile, though, is transferred to me as I watched him leave with a 3-week suspension without pay. Fun fact, EOD has been the blue-eyed boy around here for 3 years. Like myself, he started as a weekend student, but was able to cover 3 times the shift as everyone else was working 2 jobs and actually going to university, where he had just this one and was not studying. Needless to say, management loved having someone freely available to cover shifts when people were sick, and it gave him a protected status. That status pulled through to both of us becoming full-time staff. Needless to say, he's gotten away with some ridiculous things over the years. EOD tried to play a game of put the blame on someone else, but ended up getting caught in his own trap. It's a good thing the pharmacist had the evidence to clear his name, and in the end, EOD got his just desserts. But it's a shame he didn't learn his lesson because he continued to play his sneaky maneuvers with the ladies in the office. He needs a lesson in karma, but for now, he'll be taking a long vacation from work. Perhaps he can use that time to reflect on his mistakes and come back as a better person. Or he'll just come back with a bigger ego and even more foolish schemes. Either way, the pharmacist can sit back and enjoy the satisfaction of watching his colleague get what he deserves. The last story is, bully me at a funeral, enjoy your audit. I usually do taxes for my whole family, and most other paperwork and computer repairs and tech support for free. Relevant later. For clarity, I was raised by my great-grandparents. They've always been mom and dad, and the uncle is my great-uncle. This February, my uncle passed away. I agreed to rent a car and drive my great-grandma, mom, and 3 other uncles to Dallas for the funeral. Halfway there, it starts. One of my uncles, let's call him Willie, being an absolute jack-A. I would be having a conversation with someone and he would walk up and say, "Don't listen to her, she don't know what she's talking about." He called me stupid. He called me a worthless bee. He talked SH about me drinking a glass of wine, so I didn't strangle him. Meanwhile, he drank an entire case by himself. He's the only one who drinks beer. Basically, he was spoiling for a fight for some reason. Normally, I'm a B. I don't take crap from anyone else, but I take a lot from 3 family members. But I refuse to ever cause drama at weddings or funerals. My mother had lost her son. I would not ever add to her grief. I spent every night away crying in frustration. I couldn't eat for 2 days. I literally ate a handful of almonds the first night. My husband wanted to buy a plane ticket to bring me home due to the stress aggravating my health issues. He followed me around talking crap. My husband heard most of it. I was calling him at work, which I never do, to help me stay calm. He talked crap about me to perfect strangers. Spent 20 minutes in a tirade about me while we were gathering to leave for the funeral. Finally, at church, I told him, "You better be glad we're in church and out of town. When we get back, I'm going to give you what you want." He stopped for about 2 hours and then started up a dinner, always far away from Mom. I bided my time. On the trip back, I played nothing but country music, which he hates. When he complained, I switched to Tejano and then opera, which I sang as loud as possible to keep me awake. I made sure all my vape smoke, which he had made a big issue out of, was hitting him directly in the face. I parked in the mud because he was the only one getting out on my side. I had on boots. He had on his slippers. I made sure all of our pit stops weren't long enough for him to finish his cigarette, and I missed the exit when he needed to go to the bathroom. Once we were an hour away from home, I didn't hear a peep out of him. Then when we got home, he tries to tell my mother that I was starting arguments, but I had taken videos of his crap. And apparently he had been doing similar crap to others and we all backed each other up. And my sweet gentle giant of a husband, who hasn't raised his voice to them in the decade we've been together, blew up about what he saw and heard. Now my mom isn't speaking to Willie. 3 days later, he has the unmitigated gall to ask me when I was going to start his taxes. I gleefully replied with a grinchy grin, "Never. I didn't think you would want someone as stupid as me doing your taxes." He ended up paying $200+ to have his taxes done. The best part? Apparently they screwed up, and he is now being audited. Thank you, Karma, for your prompt service. OP's uncle was extremely disrespectful to her during a family funeral, but instead of retaliating, she waited for the perfect opportunity to get even. By refusing to do his taxes and other small acts of revenge, she managed to make his life a little bit more difficult. In the end, he even got audited by the IRS, which seems like a fitting punishment for his behavior. Treating people with respect and kindness is always the best course of action, and that bad behavior is rarely left unpunished. Subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Have a good day.